think it's not worth anything. But really, do you know for sure? Maybe it's worth a fortune and it's your ticket to an early retirement. So here to tell us a thing or two about how a piece of art is valued is art specialist Rob Cowley. Rob, good to see you.
Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
Good. I fall into this category.
Yes.
So I'm taking advantage of this opportunity to dust mine off, bring it in, and I'm hoping you're going to tell me I'm a millionaire here.
Well, not quite there. However...
What? Okay, so this is my piece. What can you tell me about it?
It's a work by Tinus de Jong, who was actually, the artist was born in Belgium. And then so he painted in the Danish tradition, very subdued tones, did a lot of still life work. But then in the 1920s, he was born in the late 19th century. In the 1920s, he moved to South Africa, and it changed his style completely. Changed to a much brighter palette. He started using a palette knife as well. And this is, the work you have is by this artist, and it looks to be, based on the inspection I did, it looks to actually be from that period, from the South African period.
That's a good thing?
It is a good thing.
Okay.
His work trades mainly in South Africa, a little bit in countries in Europe as well, not so much in Canada, but a work this size can sell anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000.
Hey,
there you are.
I'm not quitting my job, but
no,
hey.
but not bad.
Okay, there we go. Well, that's exciting. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much. Okay, so let's talk about the commandments, because there are a list of commandments that you have that people can keep in mind when looking at art.
Absolutely.
So let's walk through them.
Well, yeah, whenever we're valuing a work of art, we take into account about 10 factors, what we call commandments. We can start with the work at the far left here. This is a very important painting by an artist named J.E.H. Macdonald. Macdonald was a member of the Group of Seven, who we all know in Canada, of course, our most famous association of painters. This painting has several factors working for it. Artist is the first, a very famous artist. The period is very important for many artists. This was painted in 1912. In 1912, just before this painting, a few months before this painting was painted, Macdonald met Lauren Harris, who of course we know very well now through the exhibition most recently at the AGO. And it's thought that they actually painted this, might have been painting together when this was painted. Further, the association of this painting is very important because there is a canvas, the same scene, a larger work that Macdonald later created, which is very rare, that is part of the collection of the AGO, and that larger canvas was just in the Steve Martin curated show of Lauren Harris as well. So all those factors come together to make this a very important painting in Canadian art history, without a doubt. It's in our upcoming auction. It carries an estimate of $200,000 to $250,000.
So by association, mine, like sitting next to it right now, is not gaining value.
It could. I mean, it might help. It might help. As long as they stay together.
And what about the frame, too? Is the frame, you take that into account, or does it matter?
It depends. An artist like William Kurelek, who is an artist included in our upcoming auction, he created his own frames. So in cases such as that, the frame can play a role. Mainly, though, usually frame doesn't play much of a role in terms of value.
Okay, let's move along. And what do we have here?
This is a work by Tom Thompson, another very well-known painter, was very close to members of the Group of Seven and was partially the inspiration for their formation. Period, again, plays a role here. This was painted in 1912, about 5 years before his untimely death. Works from this period tend to sell in around $100,000. This work is valued at between $90,000 and $120,000. Wow. Subject matter is also important here as well. It's Huntsville. He spent a lot of time, most of his most famous work is actually from Algonquin Park. He would very often stay in Huntsville on his way in and out of the park. So those factors play a role there.
Rob, as we make our way down, tell our audience and our viewers, if they have something, what should they be looking for specifically? If they, they're dusting it off, that one in the basement, the one hanging on the wall, the grandmother's house, what could you tell them, little tips?
Artist name. Name is first. Google is a great tool. So if you're able to make out the name, then you can look that up and see the artist. If it's an original or reproduction as well. If you recognize the name and it's Picasso, and you go online and start looking and you see the exact scene you have, there's a good chance you have a reproduction. But also check with specialists. We offer free valuations online. You just email us at info@consignor.ca and we can assist as well.
Okay, what other ones do you want to point out for us here?
Another work is work by Franklin Carmichael, another member of the Group of Seven. This actually comes from the family of the artist. So association, again, the ownership history is very important, valued at $60,000 to $80,000. Size as well, if we move down to the work here by Jean McEwen, a Quebec abstract painter.
Larger, not necessarily better, or more money?
It affects value, but oversized works can sometimes affect value the other way now as homes have gotten smaller.
Oh, I love this one.
Yeah, that's valued at between $5,000 and $7,000. Subject matter is important, very reminiscent of
Can I trade the one I brought in for that one?
We can talk. I'd have to make a couple of calls. But
and then these two larger formats.
This work here is a work by Jock Macdonald. It's a very important work as well, never been offered at auction before. It's the cover piece for our auction next week. This is a type of work he's well known for. It's an abstract landscape. This was painted in the 1930s, so he really was ahead of the curve in a lot of ways. And he was actually the first painter to exhibit abstract work in Vancouver as well. So very important as well. And this carries a value of $70,000 to $90,000.
Do you have a favorite artist, or is it like picking children for you?
It's very tough. Each season it changes. Certainly I do. The Jock Macdonald is a personal favorite, as well as the J.E.H. Macdonald. The two Macdonalds are certainly favorites of mine, but they're all fantastic works.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's so personal too, right?
It really
You've
is.
got to love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We love having you here. Thanks so
pleasure.
much. And this has been so informative.